Today is Monday, November 4th. With just one day left before Election Day, we'll tell you how both presidential campaigns are making final pushes to win over any undecided voters in swing states, and why some comments and appearances from the weekend are adding to the election drama. Also, why U.S. officials are warning about some fake election videos online. Plus, we'll explain why economists say a weaker-than-expected jobs report doesn't tell the full story, which major restaurant chain is the latest to file for bankruptcy, and what happened with a star-studded movie using AI technology that's getting left behind at the box office. Those stories and more news to know next.
Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this.
It's Election Day Eve here in the U.S. Yep, tomorrow is the last day for Americans to vote on who will become our next president. And now, with the race down to the wire, the candidates are focused on battlegrounds and undecided voters. Of course, they are still talking about some of the same key issues like immigration, the economy, and reproductive health care. But there were a few new controversial comments in recent days. For example, former President Donald Trump is once again bringing up his allegations of election interference. Trump told supporters he never should have left the White House after the 2020 election. As you know, several courts and top election authorities from both parties confirmed President Biden's victory. Trump also claimed Democrats are trying to cheat this time, though once again, government officials say this election will be safe and secure. Another comment that made headlines came when the former president spoke about bulletproof glass that surrounded him at a rally yesterday, saying there was a gap in the side where the media was staged. He pointed it out, saying someone would have to shoot through what he called the fake news to get to him, but added that he actually wouldn't mind. When asked to clarify, Trump's campaign spokesperson said Trump was only saying the media was protecting him and that he was actually looking out for them. Vice President Kamala Harris didn't have quite as many rallies over the weekend, but she still spoke to a large audience. The VP made a surprise appearance on Saturday Night Live, though some officials said that wasn't fair. One of the FCC commissioners made the case that by including Harris on SNL, NBC violated an equal time rule that guarantees networks give equal time to all candidates, except when it comes to news. NBC did eventually file a notice with the FCC, and during a NASCAR playoff race last night, the network aired a recorded message from Trump. Today, Vice President Harris has a series of events in Pennsylvania, and former President Trump is scheduled to campaign in North Carolina. Polls still show an incredibly close race, making it likely this election will be decided by tens of thousands of votes in the swing states. With that, both Trump and Harris are trying to convince their supporters to actually show up and vote if they haven't already. So far, turnout is looking good. More than 77 million Americans have already cast their votes ahead of tomorrow's Election Day. That's nearly half the total number of votes cast 4 years ago, when voter turnout was the highest in more than a century. And even astronauts in space have already voted. American crew members on the International Space Station sent in their absentee ballots, which were sent back to the elections office where they live here on Earth. U.S. intelligence agencies issued a new warning, blaming Russia for some fake videos circulating online. One of the most recent videos claimed to show a Haitian immigrant in Georgia with multiple IDs saying he voted multiple times. Another claimed Vice President Harris and her husband got money from Sean Diddy Combs as a bribe. And a third claimed ballots were torn up in Pennsylvania. But multiple intelligence agencies say these are all fake. Of course, Russian influence campaigns are not new. U.S. officials say they're meant to cast doubt on the integrity of American elections. They also expect Russia to make a lot more fake content, especially if the election results are challenged. 4 years after the shooting death of Breonna Taylor sparked national protests, the first officer directly involved in the botched drug raid has been convicted. A jury found former Louisville police officer Brett Hankerson guilty of using excessive force. The officer fired 10 shots into Taylor's apartment. None of that officer's shots actually hit anyone, but his decision to fire into windows and a sliding glass door was enough for the jury to convict him of violating Taylor's civil rights. The jury cleared him on another charge that he violated the rights of Taylor's neighbors, even though some of the bullets hit nearby apartments. Last year, a judge declared a mistrial for the same officer on similar charges after a different jury could not reach a verdict. He hasn't been sentenced yet, but could face life in prison. By the way, the officers who actually shot Taylor have not faced any charges because prosecutors say they were justified in returning fire. Remember, Taylor's boyfriend said he fired at the officers because he thought they were intruders, and the police fired back. Protests over Taylor's death intensified after George Floyd's murder started a nationwide movement against police violence. Since then, the police department says it's made improvements to training, practices, and policies, but activists say more needs to be done. Meanwhile, the Justice Department is negotiating with the city and police officials over a roadmap for changes. Severe storms and reported tornadoes tore across Oklahoma over the weekend, destroying homes and injuring nearly a dozen people. Multiple suspected tornadoes hit in and around the capital of Oklahoma City, where the majority of the destruction happened. About 100 homes were damaged or destroyed, and tens of thousands of people lost power. The good news, though, no one died and everyone hurt is expected to be okay. The storm started from a severe system that originated in Texas. Meteorologists said the system could still cause impacts in some other areas through Election Day. Residents in eastern Oklahoma, northwest Arkansas, and southern Missouri should stay on alert. We have more news for you still ahead, but first, this episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. You know, with such a contentious election season, I do want to take a moment to say thank you to everyone still being kind to each other, even when you're stressed out or disagree with someone. This month is all about gratitude, and I'm trying to return to what and who I'm thankful for, especially when things feel chaotic and overwhelming. And that actually gets me back to a place where I can be kinder, both to others and myself. Yes, especially myself, because if you're like me, you probably don't thank yourself quite enough. I've learned in therapy that being kind to myself and feeling grateful are two of the best things I can do for a calmer, happier life. So if you're thinking of starting therapy, which I highly recommend, you might consider giving BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/newsworthy today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/newsworthy. Okay, now back to the news. The newest jobs report shows the lowest number of jobs added since the height of the COVID pandemic. The report said the economy added only 12,000 jobs in October, way down from September and worse than economists expected. But there's a catch. Economists said it's not likely as weak as this number implies. In fact, the unemployment rate stayed steady at 4.1% last month, a sign of a strong labor market overall. So what's going on here? Analysts say the data was skewed by the impact of Hurricanes Milton and Helene, as well as strikes, including the ongoing work stoppage at Boeing. Overall, economists say while the labor market is slowing, this distorted one-month snapshot is not a great indicator of the overall job picture. Most analysts still expect the Fed to lower interest rates this week, so stay tuned. Yet another American restaurant chain has gone bankrupt after years of declining sales. TGI Fridays filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy over the weekend, saying it offered the best chance for the brand to survive long-term. The bankruptcy only affects TGI Fridays' parent company, which means all franchises will stay open. But bankruptcy pushes pause on debt payments, including rent, so the company can explore options that will allow it to rebound in the years ahead. Those options could include closing some of its restaurants and selling off assets like real estate. TGI Fridays already shut down dozens of locations earlier this year and has been closing more franchises in recent months. The pandemic hit Fridays particularly hard as in-person dining was limited, and inflation in the following years put a dent in the spending power of the restaurant's customer base. Fridays is the latest popular restaurant chain to declare bankruptcy this year, with the most notable being Red Lobster, which filed for protection in May. A superhero movie is once again at the top of the box office. Venom, The Last Dance, starring Tom Hardy, finished the weekend with just over $26 million, giving it the top spot for the second straight week. It's now made a little more than $90 million domestically, which isn't a huge number compared to the massive superhero blockbusters in past years, but it crossed the $300 million mark worldwide. On the other end of the spectrum, the movie Here only managed $5 million in its opening weekend. It was a disappointment for a star-driven film using ambitious technology to draw in audiences. The AI tech allowed Tom Hanks and Robin Wright to play younger and older versions of themselves. The movie is also a reunion of the two stars 30 years after Forrest Gump. But with a 36% score from critics on Rotten Tomatoes, Here has not resonated. The world's largest annual major marathon brought out about 50,000 runners over the weekend, with more than 1 million spectators from around the globe cheering them on all along the route. The New York City Marathon happened on Sunday. On the men's side, the winner became the first runner from the Netherlands to come out on top. On the women's side, it was the first time runners from Kenya swept all 3 medal positions. Both first-place victors won for the first time. They'll take home $100,000 and a lifetime of bragging rights. Well, that's it for the main news, so now it's time for Money Monday, when we talk about one interesting money-related news story. But first, this episode is brought to you by Quince. Can you believe it's November already? The weather has been a bit all over the place, but we've definitely had some cooler days where I live. And I know some other places that have already gotten snow. Well, saying goodbye to the summer feels easier when I can slip into a cozy sweater from Quince. Quince is known for their Mongolian cashmere sweaters from just $50. And I love all the items I've gotten from Quince, like my washable silk tank and organic cotton blazer. I love having high-quality pieces without having to feel guilty for buying them, because all of Quince items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. How? By partnering directly with top factories and cutting out the cost of the middleman, which passes the savings on to us. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices, as well as premium fabrics and finishes for that luxury feel in every piece. So get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/newsworthy for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/newsworthy to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/newsworthy. Okay, now back to Money Monday. Political campaigns up and down the ballot have spent an enormous amount of money this election season. One projection estimates $16 billion total will be spent on elections this year, from the presidential contest down to local races. And around $10.5 billion have been spent on ads alone. That's more than $1 billion higher on advertisements than in 2020. Also of note this election season, Democrats have outspent Republicans by almost $1 billion on ads, though the spending began back in January of 2023. And for the first time in history, more than $1 billion has been spent on ads in just one single state, Pennsylvania, a key battleground state. Despite all of this spending, the actual presidential campaigns themselves have accounted for a relatively small portion of it. The official campaigns for Donald Trump and Kamala Harris have spent just under $900 million combined, with Harris's campaign spending almost $200 million more than Trump's. But keep in mind, outside groups like super PACs and others not directly affiliated with the candidates' campaigns and party committees have also poured a record $1.1 billion into the 2024 presidential race. And the vast majority of the money spent, by the way, about 80%, has been spent in just 7 states. All right, thank you so much for joining us today. You can further support our work here by becoming a Newsworthy Insider. You can listen ad-free on any podcast app. Sign up for your free trial at thenewsworthy.com/insider. And Wondery Plus subscribers can listen to episodes of The Newsworthy ad-free in the Wondery app. We'll be back with even more news to know tomorrow, Election Day. For now, have a great day.